ever wished you could trade places with a royal?
Yeah.
I mean, castles and jewels and all those fancy hats.
Oh, yeah.
But today's deep dive,
Yeah.
it might just change your mind.
Mm-hmm.
We're going behind the scenes, so to speak, behind the tiara, to explore the life of Princess Margaret, the Queen's younger sister.
Okay.
Let me tell you,
Yeah.
it is a story
I bet.
full of surprising twists and turns.
Yeah.
We've got some excerpts, actually, from a podcast episode
Interesting.
all about her, and it is giving
Oh.
very much The Crown vibes,
Yeah.
but with even juicier details.
Oh, I love it.
The Crown.
I know, right?
It's so good.
It is so good.
Yeah, it's easy to get kind of swept up in the fairy tale of it all.
Right.
But Margaret's life was anything but, a simple happily ever after.
Mm.
Imagine being born into, unimaginable privilege,
Right.
but constantly being overshadowed
Right.
and labeled as the spare.
Yeah.
That was her reality.
So let's rewind the clock a little bit.
Okay. Margaret was born in 1930, just 4 years after Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm.
You can picture it, right? Two little princesses,
Yeah.
the future queen, and, well, the spare.
The spare, exactly.
Yeah.
And their upbringing reflects that difference.
Oh, interesting.
Elizabeth was groomed for the throne,
Right.
whereas Margaret's education was more focused on becoming a proper young lady, you know?
Not exactly a recipe for a life of rebellion, you would think.
You would think, right?
But even as a child, there were glimpses of that independent spirit
Yeah,
and that refusal to be put in a box.
absolutely.
Remember that story about Margaret's response to her mother's comment about her appearance?
Oh, yeah.
I love that story.
It's such a good one.
It is.
So her mother said, "You don't look very angelic, Margaret."
Right.
And without missing a beat, Margaret said, "That's all right. I'll be a holy terror."
Oh, my gosh.
Even at a young age,
Yeah.
she had this sharp wit,
Yeah.
this mischievous streak
Yes.
that hinted at the woman she would become.
It's a small detail, but it really sets the stage for the complexities
It does.
of her character.
Yeah.
And then, of course, everything changed with the abdication of her uncle Edward VIII.
Huge.
Huge.
Seismic shift, not just for the monarchy, but for Margaret personally.
Right.
Her father became King Ray. Elizabeth was now heir apparent, and Margaret, at just 6 years old,
Wow.
became second in line to the throne.
Talk about pressure.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Suddenly she was thrust into the spotlight, expected to be like a model royal,
Yeah.
while navigating this incredibly unique,
Totally.
and let's be honest, kind of awkward position.
Yes, very awkward.
You know?
Yeah.
And as she blossomed into a young woman, the public became increasingly fascinated by her.
They did.
She embraced a more public role, captivating the press with her glamour and her impeccable fashion sense.
Right.
I mean, think Dior's new look,
Yeah, exactly.
her vibrant social life.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, she was just,
It's the iconic image of Princess Margaret, like the life of the party surrounded by this glamorous circle of friends
Right.
known as the Margaret set.
oh, the Margaret set.
Can you imagine the soirees,
Oh,
the balls,
yeah.
the endless champagne?
I mean, it sounds fun,
It does sound fun,
doesn't it?
but with all of that attention came intense scrutiny.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, the tabloids were obsessed with her every move,
I can imagine.
from her smoking habits
Right.
to her fashion choices to the whispers about her love life.
And it started early.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's that crazy story about a maid being paid by the press to peek into Margaret's hotel room,
Oh, my God.
leading to rumors about her bathing nude.
Wow.
I know, it just shows you the level of intrusion she faced even as a teenager.
So young.
Yeah.
And then you have the comparisons to Roman Holiday,
Oh, yeah.
the film about a princess sneaking away from her duties,
Mm-hmm.
which further cemented this image of Margaret as like the rebellious royal.
Right.
The public clearly saw parallels, you know?
Yeah.
This desire for freedom,
Right.
for experiences beyond the gilded cage.
Right.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how a single film could capture the public imagination.
Right. And
Yeah.
fuel those perceptions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But speaking of capturing the public's attention,
Yeah.
we can't forget about Peter Townsend, the man who truly set the tabloids on fire.
Peter Townsend,
Right.
a war hero,
Yes.
equerry to the king,
Mm-hmm.
and Margaret's first great love.
Yes.
Their relationship was the stuff of headlines,
Totally.
like a whirlwind romance shrouded in controversy.
It had all the elements of a forbidden love story.
Yeah.
A dashing hero,
Mm.
a princess yearning for something more,
Great.
and a royal family scandal waiting to explode.
Oh, for sure.
And remember, this was the 1950s.
Right.
Divorce was still very taboo.
Totally.
Especially for someone so close to the throne.
Absolutely.
And Townsend was divorced, which created this huge obstacle for the relationship.
It did.
The Church of England frowned upon it.
Yeah.
The government was wary, and the Queen, caught between her duty and her sister's happiness in an impossible position.
Yeah.
Their romance really came to light at Elizabeth's coronation.
Oh, yeah.
When Margaret was caught on camera brushing lint off of Townsend's uniform.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
It seems so innocent, right?
Yeah.
But in the context of their rumored relationship,
Of course.
it became this huge scandal.
Huge.
It's amazing how a single gesture could ignite such a media frenzy.
Yeah.
And the public was divided.
Oh, yeah.
On one hand, you had the Daily Mirror poll showing overwhelming support for their relationship.
Yeah.
You know, people love the idea of this fairy tale romance, this princess who dared to follow her heart.
Yeah, exactly.
But on the other hand, you had this intense pressure from the government and the church.
Right.
Who saw the relationship as a threat to the stability of the monarchy.
Of course.
They even threatened to strip Margaret of her royal titles and income.
Wow.
If she married Townsend.
That's crazy.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
Talk about a crossroads.
Yeah.
Clash between love and duty.
Yeah.
Personal happiness and royal obligation.
Wow.
In the end, Margaret chose duty.
She did.
Announcing that she would not marry Townsend.
Wow.
It was a decision that revealed her deep sense of loyalty to the crown.
It did.
But also perhaps a recognition of the impossible position she was in.
Of course.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
It is.
You can't help but wonder what might have been if she had chosen differently.
Right. It's a question that has lingered for decades.
Yeah.
You know, a what if that continues to fascinate royal watchers, historians alike. But even though the Townsend chapter closed, Margaret's story was far from over.
And this is where things take another interesting turn.
Okay.
Despite the heartbreak, Margaret eventually found love again.
She did.
Or at least what seemed like love at the time. With a man named Anthony Armstrong Jones.
Yeah.
Their marriage was seen as this modern fairy tale.
It was.
Yeah. A breath of fresh air for the monarchy.
Absolutely.
You know, he was a photographer, an artist a world away.
Yes.
From the traditional expectations of a royal spouse.
Yeah, that's so cool.
I know.
Yeah.
And their wedding was a media sensation.
It was.
It was the first televised royal wedding.
Wow.
A spectacle that captivated the world.
Yeah.
Margaret's fashion choices, her effortless elegance,
yeah,
it all added to the allure.
It did.
You know?
Yeah, it seemed like a perfect match.
Yeah.
This princess who had dared to break free from convention.
Yes.
Finding happiness with this man who embodied creativity.
Right.
And a modern sensibility.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But like so much in Margaret's life,
yeah,
things weren't always what they seemed.
Right.
Yeah, behind the glamorous facade.
Yes.
Their relationship was far more complicated.
It was.
Their marriage was ultimately plagued by infidelity and relentless media scrutiny, which was only becoming more aggressive and intrusive at the time.
Yeah. It's interesting to consider how the coverage of the Snowdens, as they were known, reflected this changing media landscape.
Absolutely. Right. The tabloids were bolder, less restrained,
yes,
and the Snowdens were right in their crosshairs.
Right in their crosshairs.
Yeah.
It raises an important question, I think, for us to consider.
Yeah.
How much did that media pressure, that constant scrutiny, contribute to the breakdown of their marriage?
Yeah.
You know, it's hard to say for sure, but it certainly played a role.
Okay, so we've covered Margaret's childhood, the pressures of being the spare, the Peter Townsend scandal, and her whirlwind marriage to Anthony Armstrong Jones.
Yeah.
But her story doesn't end there.
It doesn't.
In fact, it's about to get even more interesting.
Okay, tell me more.
Let's talk about Roddy Llewellyn.
Ooh.
A name that became synonymous with scandal.
Oh, yeah.
And double standards.
Okay, this wasn't just another tabloid headline.
Right.
The Roddy Llewellyn affair really exposed the intense scrutiny Margaret faced.
Yeah.
A scrutiny that often felt deeply unfair, especially when compared to her male counterparts.
Okay, paint the picture for us.
Okay.
Who was Roddy Llewellyn and what made this affair so explosive?
So picture this. It's 1973.
Okay.
And Margaret meets Roddy Llewellyn.
Okay.
He's a landscape gardener.
Right.
Charming. And 17 years her junior.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Their connection quickly becomes fodder for the gossip columns.
Right.
And you can imagine the frenzy that followed.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And this is the 70s, remember?
Yeah.
The tabloids are bolder than ever.
Yeah.
And Margaret, already labeled as the rebel princess, becomes their favorite target.
Yeah.
Every detail of their relationship is splashed across the front pages.
It is.
The scrutiny reaches fever pitch when photographs of them together on Moustique.
Oh, wow.
Margaret's private island retreat. Surface.
Yeah.
These images show this relaxed, carefree Margaret.
Okay.
A stark contrast to the stuffy, formal image often associated with the royal family. And the public reaction is swift and harsh.
Yeah.
Margaret's labeled reckless, irresponsible, a disgrace to the crown.
I see.
But here's the thing that's always struck me.
Yeah.
Why was the backlash against Margaret so much more intense than what male royals faced for similar indiscretions?
It's a great question, and it goes to the heart of the double standards of the time.
Right.
Male royals had affairs.
Right.
And while it might raise eyebrows, it was often brushed aside.
Right. Like boys will be boys.
Boys will be boys, exactly.
But for Margaret, it was a scandal of epic proportions.
A huge scandal.
She was labeled with terms like royal parasite and floozy.
Oh my gosh.
Politicians even chimed in criticizing her lifestyle and her use of public funds.
Really?
It felt like they were holding her to a completely different standard.
Really?
Right.
Yeah.
And what's particularly ironic is that this scandal, fueled by the very tabloids that had been hounding her marriage for years, ultimately provided the catalyst for the Snowdens to finally divorce in 1978.
It's like they created the narrative
they were reporting on.
It's almost like the press created the narrative they were reporting on.
Exactly.
They relentlessly pursued these stories of marital discord.
Right.
Printed these intrusive photographs.
Yeah.
And then acted shocked
when
the marriage imploded.
Right.
It's a pattern that feels eerily familiar.
It does.
Even today, don't you think?
Yes, very much so.
It raises important questions about the role of the media in shaping public perception.
It does.
You know how they often contribute to the very scandals they claim to be reporting on?
Exactly.
But amidst all this chaos, the Rowdy Llewellyn affair revealed something else about Margaret.
What's that?
Her fierce loyalty.
Oh.
Despite the overwhelming public criticism, she refused to denounce Rowdy.
Wow.
Or distance herself from him.
Okay.
It was a testament to her character, her refusal to bow to public pressure or betray someone she cared about.
She stood by him, even when it seemed like the whole world was against her.
Wow, that's amazing.
And it's important to remember that Margaret wasn't just a tabloid fixture.
Right.
She was also deeply involved in the arts.
She was.
Charity work throughout her life, often using her platform to advocate for causes close to her heart.
Absolutely.
She once said, "In my own humble way, I've always tried to take some of the burden off my sister. She can't do it all into this, and I leap at the opportunity to help."
Oh, wow.
It really shows her dedication to the monarchy.
It does.
And her understanding of her unique role within the royal family.
Yeah.
It also hints at the complexities of her relationship with Elizabeth.
Yeah, for sure.
They were sisters' confidants, but also rivals in a sense.
I see that.
Each navigating the unique pressures and expectations
Really?
of their royal roles.
Yeah.
Their lives were so intertwined,
Right,
yet they faced such different challenges.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating dynamic to explore this bond between two sisters.
Yeah.
Who were also symbols of a nation.
Absolutely.
And let's not forget the rumors.
Yeah.
The whispers that always surrounded Margaret.
Right.
The stories that fueled her mystique.
Yeah.
The alleged romances with some of the biggest names of the 20th century.
Who are we talking about?
Oh, there were whispers about a relationship with Mick Jagger.
Mick Jagger.
Fueled by their shared social circles and her visits to Moustique.
Yeah.
Where Jagger eventually built a home.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine those late-night parties?
Oh.
The blend of royalty and rock and roll. It's pure speculation, of course.
Yeah.
But it adds another layer of intrigue
to
her story.
It does.
And that's what makes Margaret's life so captivating. It was a blend of glamour, scandal duty, and genuine human connection.
Right.
It's easy to get caught up in the tabloid headlines.
Yeah.
But when you look deeper, you see a woman who was both a product of her time and a force of nature in her own right. She pushed boundaries, challenged conventions, and ultimately lived life on her own terms.
She did.
Even within the confines of the monarchy.
Amazing.
That's a legacy worth remembering.
It is.
But we haven't even touched on the toll that her lifestyle took.
Right.
On her health.
On her health.
Behind the glamorous facade.
Yeah.
There was a real person.
Right.
dealing with very human struggles.
Yes.
And in Margaret's case, those struggles manifested in some serious health issues.
They did.
Later in life.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that even those born into privilege aren't immune to the consequences of their choices.
Of course.
But in Margaret's case, those struggles were really front and center.
Let's delve into that after a quick...
You know what?
Yeah.
I think we've earned a break.
I agree.
Let's pick up Margaret's story in the final part of our deep dive, where we'll explore the later years of her life, the challenges she faced, and the legacy she left behind.
Sounds good.
Stay with us. Years of heavy smoking and, a fondness for a cocktail or two.
Of course.
Habits that were practically de rigueur in her social circles eventually caught up with her.
They did.
In 1988, she suffered a stroke that significantly impacted her mobility and her speech.
Oh, wow.
And by the early 2000s, she was using a wheelchair and struggling with her vision.
Wow.
It's a sad but important part of her story.
Yeah.
A reminder that even with privilege and access to the best care, we're all vulnerable to the consequences of our choices.
Absolutely.
And it makes you wonder, doesn't it?
It does.
How much did the pressures of her royal role,
the
constant scrutiny, the emotional turmoil contribute to these unhealthy habits? Was it a form of escape?
Maybe.
Way of coping with a life lived under a microscope?
It's certainly a possibility. Imagine the weight of expectations, the constant judgment, the pressure to maintain a certain image, all while navigating the complexities of family relationships and personal heartbreak.
But here's what I find truly remarkable.
Okay.
Despite these challenges, Margaret never lost her spirit.
Wow.
She continued to fulfill her royal duties, attending events, supporting charities, and connecting with people.
Good for her.
There's a resilience there, a strength of character that shines through. Even as her health declined, she maintained her sharp wit, her sense of humor, and her dedication to the causes she believed in.
That's wonderful.
There's a quote from one of her biographers that really captures this spirit.
Oh, okay.
She had a quality that made people want to be near her, to be touched by her magic.
Oh, wow.
Even in her later years, she retained that magnetism, that spark that drew people to her.
Right.
And she continued to be a patron of the arts, a champion of cultural institutions, and a supporter of numerous charities.
Good for her.
Her commitment to making a difference, even as she faced personal difficulties, speaks volumes about her character.
It really does.
So as we reach the end of our deep dive into Princess Margaret's life, what can we take away from her story? What lessons can we glean from this complex, captivating, and often heartbreaking journey?
I think her life offers a powerful reminder that even those who seem to have it all face their own unique battles.
Right.
It's a glimpse into the complexities of fame, the burdens of duty, and the universal search for love, meaning, and connection.
She was a woman of contradictions, a symbol of both tradition and modernity, a princess who challenged conventions and ultimately lived life on her own terms.
She did.
And perhaps most importantly, she reminds us that behind the headlines and the public personas, we're all human.
We are.
We all experience joy and sorrow.
We do.
Love and loss, triumphs and setbacks.
Yeah.
Margaret's story is a reminder that life is rarely a simple fairy tale.
It's not.
It's messy. It's unpredictable. And it's full of unexpected twists and turns.
It is.
But even amidst the challenges, there's beauty to be found.
There is.
Strength to be discovered.
Absolutely.
And a legacy to be left behind.
I love that.
Margaret's life was a testament to the fact that even within the confines of tradition and expectation, it's possible to forge your own path.
It is.
To embrace individuality and to leave an unforgettable mark on the world.
She did.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It was my pleasure.
Into the life of Princess Margaret.
Yes, thank you.
We hope you found it insightful, thought-provoking.
I did.
And maybe even a little bit inspiring.
Very much so.
And if you're yearning for more deep dives into the lives of fascinating figures, be sure to subscribe to our show.
Please do.
We'll be back soon with another captivating story.
Can't wait.
Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep embracing the complexities of the world around us. We've explored Princess Margaret's glamorous life, her tumultuous romances, and the relentless media scrutiny that she faced. But now let's talk about a side of her story that's often overlooked, the impact of her lifestyle, the toll it took on her health,
Yeah.
and the strength she displayed in her later years.
Right. It's easy to get caught up in those dazzling images, the
Yeah.
society parties, and the headline-grabbing romances. But it's
Right.
important to remember that behind the public persona,
Yeah,
Margaret was a human being,
right.
navigating the complexities of life just like the rest of us.
Exactly. And in her case, those complexities included some significant health challenges,
Yeah.
particularly in her later years. It's a stark reminder that even with privilege
Right.
and access to the best care, we're all vulnerable to the
Yeah.
consequences of our choices.
Exactly.
Years of heavy smoking
Oh, yeah.
and, a fondness for a cocktail or two.
Of course.
Habits that were practically de rigueur in her social circles
Right.
eventually caught up with her.
Right.
In 1988, she suffered a stroke that significantly impacted her mobility and her speech.
Oh, wow.
And by the early 2000s, she was using a wheelchair and struggling with her vision.
Wow.
It's a sad but important part of her story.
It is.
A reminder that even those born into extraordinary circumstances face very human struggles.
They do.
And it makes you wonder, how much did the pressures of her royal role, the constant scrutiny, the emotional turmoil,
Yeah.
contribute to these unhealthy habits?
Yeah.
Was it a form of escape?
Yeah.
A way of coping with a life lived under a microscope?
It's certainly a possibility. Imagine the weight of those expectations, the constant judgment, the
Right.
pressure to maintain a certain image,
Right.
all while navigating, family relationships
Of course.
and personal heartbreak.
But here's what I find truly remarkable.
Yeah.
Despite these challenges, Margaret never lost her spirit.
That's amazing.
She continued to fulfill her royal duties, attending events, supporting charities, and connecting with people.
Good for her.
There's a resilience there, a strength of character that really shines through.
Yeah.
Even as her health declined, she maintained her sharp wit, her sense of humor, and her dedication to the causes she believed in.
That's wonderful.
There's a quote from one of her biographers
Okay.
that really captures this spirit.
Oh, okay.
He said, "She had a quality that made people want to be near her, to be touched by her magic."
Wow.
Even in her later years, she retained that magnetism,
Yeah.
that spark that drew people to her.
Right.
And she continued to be a patron of the arts,
Yeah.
a champion of cultural institutions, and a supporter of numerous charities.
It's really inspiring.
Yeah, her commitment to making a difference, even as she faced personal difficulties,
Yeah.
speaks volumes about her character.
It does.
So as we reach the end of our deep dive into Princess Margaret's life, what can we take away from her story? What lessons can we glean from this complex, captivating, and often heartbreaking journey?
I think her life offers a powerful reminder that even those who seem to have it all face their own unique battles.
Right.
It's a glimpse into the complexities of fame, the burdens of duty, and the universal search for love, meaning, and connection.
She was a woman of contradictions, a symbol of both tradition and modernity. A princess who challenged conventions and ultimately lived life on her own terms.
She did.
And perhaps most importantly, she reminds us that behind the headlines and the public personas,
Right.
we're all human.
We are.
We all experience joy and sorrow,
Yeah.
love and loss, triumphs and setbacks.
Yes, we do.
Margaret's story is a reminder that life is rarely a simple fairy tale.
It's not, no.
It's messy, it's unpredictable, and it's full of unexpected twists and turns. But even amidst the challenges, there's beauty to be found, strength to be discovered, and a legacy to be left behind.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the life of Princess Margaret.
It was my pleasure.
We hope you found it insightful, thought-provoking, and maybe even a little bit inspiring. And if you're yearning for more deep dives into the lives of fascinating figures, be sure to subscribe to our show. We'll be back soon with another captivating story. Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep embracing the complexities of the world around us.
Absolutely.